shared, raise your hands. Okay, Domi was born and raised in Delano, experienced the farm labor strike, and lived in the labor camps. He participated in Filipino organizations at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and one of the 4 founding members of the Filipino Cultural Exchange, and earned his degree in journalism, which is why he loves to write. In Delano's first weekend, he wrote the play The Rime of San Juan Rico. He was Delano's Philippine Weekend president and is currently a member of FON's Delano chapter and currently working on his memoirs entitled The Delano Flips. Christian, hey. I get a great chance to talk and connect with him. He's an associate professor in ethnic studies at UC Berkeley. He recently published the book, which you got a chance, The Strikers Coachella, a rank and file history of the UFW, follows the life of Filipino and Mexican farm workers in the United Farm Worker Movement in Southern California, Coachella Valley. At Berkeley, he teaches Latinx studies, U.S. social movements, and interracial relations. But previously, which is I really love, he taught high school in the Coachella Valley Union School District. Yeah. And Johnny was born the same year as the Delano grape strike. Remembers a lot from the strike area, and one of his phrases, my father's work was affected every single worker person in the United States. People needed to hear his story and realize that there was a Filipino hero. His story may inspire others, someone else, if he does, then his work's done. At this point, we'll have Domi speak, Christian, and then Johnny. Okay. There you go.
Yeah, that was. So I pretty much know a lot of y'all here, so I'm not really.
Step back.
Step back. Okay, can you hear me? We good? All right. So I think this is going to be a good time. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm not going to do a lot of talking about free flowing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read a part of my Young Boy, Do You Know the Words to That Song? I think there's about 6 copies left in the back. A lot of you have bought it, and of course you always ask me, please, can you write something nice? And I will. So I'm going to read this, and then we're going to have a really quick discussion about why I wrote it, because it's very important. It's very important to the lives of being a Filipino. Personally, I couldn't tell you how many did not marry, could not marry, choose not to marry. How many ended up in labor camps built from Depression era, discarded boxcar, not the best, but reasonably safe. Warm in the winter, cool in the summer, segregated. In exchange, they reported daily for work, living to provide without complaint, thankless, cheap labor. In Delano, there were many such camps for these forgotten manongs. At Lusich Farms, where I work, Manong Alejandro, who was one of 4 or 5 who shared the same name, a bachelor, unmarried since arriving in America in the late 1920s. I'm pretty sure he was in his mid-60s, built like Buddha, rotund but spry and nimble. His face was round with a nose that reminded me of W.C. Fields, hair thinning, close to being bald, eyes dark, penetrating yet calm and composed, with light, thin lips that chewed on an unlit cigar. Each day he would strike up a conversation with the question, young boy, do you know the words to that song? His voice had a rasp, guttural and low with a thick Ilocano accent. Thick as it was, he was articulate and wise, each word filled with experience and wisdom. Okay. We'd have a conversation during work breaks, mostly when we shared a snack, a staple needed to get us through the day. Farm work was hard. It was steady and lengthy. Days reached over 100 degrees. It included other conditions, dust, sulfur, pollution, long hours of earning an honest day's pay. I admired him, as with the rest of the elders in the camp. It was nothing less than backbreaking, however. He knew the techniques and skills to work fast, efficiently, and with the least amount of effort. I was in my early teens, and he outpaced me despite my youth and vigor. During these breaks, Manong Alejandro would finally light up a smoke, his reliable Toscano, a foul-smelling cigar that resembled a dark, twisted rope clenched between his teeth as he puffed. He said it'd keep the flies and mosquitoes away. Because the tobacco was densely wrapped, It lasted no more than 3 puffs. The rest of the day, it kept vigil in his mouth, patiently waiting for a match or lighter to bring it back to life. He shared stories about his loves he should have had, both in the Philippines and in the States, how women were to be treated with respect and tender, loving care, smothered with poetry, song, and flowers. George told me that when my Auntie Tisai worked in one of the crews, he would serenade her with the following song: Bésame, bésame mucho. Each time I cling to your kiss, I hear music divine. Oh, bésame, bésame mucho. His delivery was far from stellar, voice cracked and hoarse, sometimes in tune, sometimes not. A soulful a cappella underneath the shade of vines carried far, wide, and echoed. In the fields, no one talking, as if listening to a great tenor, with murmurs of approval from his fellow brothers, who shared a combination of years of wanting and needing, and how the tides of fate, laws, and racism denied them the decency of a relationship. Time stood still. Even the birds perched in reverence. I was touched by his performance, sanguine and melodious. It was a testament that tacitly demonstrated aspirations and dreams, promises that never came to be. The first time I heard him sing, I was sad and depressed, because I learned that Manongs like him had their fates sealed. With no way out, he sang his song, as if the music, a painful testament, a metaphor for what he and his brothers endured. His story was one of many. My father, unlike him, and afforded the opportunity of meeting Mom when he was stationed in the Philippines. Others returned to lonely bunkhouses where their basics of eating, sleeping, and working were all but guaranteed. In return for this convenience, segregation left them emotionally destitute, emptied, and void. Meanwhile, under the canopy of vines and men and women earning wages enough to survive, and under the inclement of harsh weather, chemical smells mingled with the stench of mildew, farm dust, black widows, yellow jackets, snakes, and field mice. This was our small universe. It's what we did for a working wage of $1.05 an hour. I shared this with my good friend, Manong Alejandro. Several days after one of our talks, I noticed Manong was missing from work. I learned, sad to say, that he passed away the night before, apparently from years of an autoimmune disease that progressed to his heart. Never had I known his body rebelled, ached, and burned his joints, tortured him to unbearable and unspeakable pain. And not once did he tell of it, a small word of compliment, showing up every day in his work boots, khakis, long sleeve shirt, bandana around his neck, and a floppy hat over his head, ready to earn an honest day's pay. Perhaps there was a faint smell of Bengay to offset any joint or muscle pain. When I heard the news, immediately came to mind was his thick Filipino accent asking me, "Young boy, do you know the words to that song?" I didn't, and respectfully asked him to sing the lyrics, reminding me of the tormented soul that he and others shared, how they kept to themselves, the unforgettable heroes who hoped for a better life, compelling stories, and every one of them never to be told, blown away in the wind, forgotten forever. A medical diagnosis, disease, might have taken him down, but I knew differently. Subtle, deadly, final. What took him away was that of a broken heart, a small part of his physical self. He couldn't bear it anymore. It made me sad just to think about it. I knew as true and as pure as the wind that blew across the valley. He played his hand the best he could despite the stinking, lousy cards that were dealt to him. And I stretched my eyes across the sky. I wondered what Manong Alejandro's last thoughts were before he closed his eyes for the very last time after contributing so much of himself in this land of opportunity. After that, that day, I had a spiral notebook like this, 1968 or 69, and I wrote my feelings at that time. I wrote this book, I think it started maybe, I don't know, 1995 or 2000, and what started it was that I found my notebook. And there's a saying that I wrote in some of these books. I said, the greatest thoughts are the ones you write down. And this is the message that I want to tell you, and I'm just going to call it quits after that. There were two types of Filipinos that were there when I was growing up. There were the types of Filipinos that raised families like us, okay? That we were able to sponsor more Filipinos, and they continued to grow until we became, if not one of the largest Asian group in the United States. But before that time, there were thousands and thousands of bachelor Filipinos who died in obscurity with no families to bury them, like Manong Alejandro. Thank you.
Thank you for that.